Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing another bit of a Bible archaeology talk about the tomb of Jesus. So there are currently two places in Jerusalem that claim to be where Christ died and rose again from the dead. One of them is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem that Catholics and Eastern Orthodox tend to visit, and the other one is the Garden Tomb, which tends to be visited more so by Protestants. So the question is, which one is it, if either one? So let's look at the arguments for the Garden Tomb. So basically, the case made for the Garden Tomb is that basically it is outside of city walls. The Bible says that Jesus was crucified outside of the city walls, and this seems to be something in his favor ahead of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, which is currently inside the city walls. Furthermore, actually, I gotta be honest with you, that's really all the Garden Tomb has going for it, and it being a picturesque location. Now for the problems with it. So let's start off with the design, what they found in there. So the Garden Tomb does not have a long history of Christian pilgrimage associated with it. It's only within the past, I think, not even the 1800s, when in the Victorian period, when a General Gordon came in, he recommended the site off as a legitimate location, because the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was really not friendly to Protestant worship, and the English didn't really like visiting there, so they decided to commemorate Christ's death and resurrection there. And they felt it was more garden-like, rather than a stuffy old church. Jesus clearly didn't die in a church. Well, there wasn't a church there back then. It was built later. An archaeological survey was done there by Dr. Gabriel Barkai. And this is what he said: there is no way it can be the tomb. No way it can be the tomb of Jesus. And here's one of the reasons he gave. One of the things described in the Bible about the tomb of Jesus was that it was a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid. That is not the Garden Tomb. So basically, here's how we know that. First of all, they did a lot of the material culture they found inside that tomb when it was first dug out. They were able to sift through it later, and there's stuff from like the time of Solomon. Maybe it's just put there later. There's more. The design layout is like this. So if you go inside the tomb, apparently there'd be like various benches you could lay the dead on. So like a dead body be here, another dead body here, another dead body here. Based on that architecture, it's in line with what you expect from the time of, say, King Hezekiah. 800 years before Jesus. 800 years might be reason in geological terminology. Biblical terminology, not so much. Especially when you're describing a tomb as new. It's too old. Now, there's a cross in there that's been found, but it has been dated to the Crusader period. Church of the Holy Sepulchre, on the other hand. So let's look at its layout. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre has an entryway, and inside there's like a single bench oriented this way where the body would be laid. That is in line with what the tombs of the period of Jesus would have looked like at that time. It would have been a tomb. It would have been a tomb of recent construction based on the material culture. Furthermore, another thing people tend to forget: Jerusalem has since been destroyed and rebuilt more times than we can count. Well, maybe not literally, but just about. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. The tomb at that time, that would have been outside of the walls of Jerusalem. So, since the time of Jesus, the city of Jerusalem was expanded under Jewish leaders. It had been destroyed. It had since been rebuilt in Roman times. And the current city walls date from date from the time of the Ottomans, centuries after Jesus died and rose again, centuries after the rise of Islam. Centuries. So that does not denote the city walls of the time of Christ. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre would have been outside of the walls, of Jerusalem at the time of Christ. Another fun fact, there is Christian graffiti there, and it has been dated within 200 years. I'm going to be cautious and say 200 years within 2nd century, I think, of the time of Jesus. I'm being cautious there. If I recall correctly, it may have even been, there's found Christian graffiti there and a nearby quarry shrine. Literally an underground Christian shrine, figuratively and literally. To my understanding, don't quote me on this, feel free to look it up, that graffiti may even date to within the living memory when Jesus walked the earth. So it is a sign of like primitive, we're talking pre-Nicene early Christian pilgrimage to the site. And when I say pre-Nicene, I mean like, okay, after the Romans destroyed Jerusalem, like they built and like it was destroyed early on. Within the John the Evangelist would have lived to see the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans. And then the Romans built a temple to, like, I think Venus, if I recall correctly, on the site, and buried the site. So there would be no accessing it pretty well, at least as far as I'm aware. How does Christian graffiti from that time period get there? Because as soon as it was uncovered, as soon as it was uncovered by the Empress Helena, Constantine the Great's mother, she built a massive Constantinian basilica on the site. So there isn't a very big time frame for when you could put early Christian graffiti there, but they have early Christian graffiti there. And it's like the disciples, the apostles and disciples, the apostles, and that would have been like the only time frame it could have really been put in there. So yeah, so that tells you how early on it would have been. So so we have literally a primitive Christian. You want to talk about, people talk about the primitive Christian church, the early church, how did they worship? Well, we have primitive Christian evidence of where Jesus died and rose again from the dead. And all the archaeological evidence points to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where they are currently doing another archaeological dig right now as I say this. I really wish I was there. Very jealous. So if you're ever in Jerusalem and you visit and want to see Jesus' actual tomb, Garden Tomb is a pretty place. I would definitely visit it myself, though I'm not Protestant. It's a nice touristy thing, and it is an ancient tomb. But the evidence, yeah, Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's the tomb of Jesus. God bless.